Uncle Charlie was the only family member who ever believed in me. While my cousins Brad and Tyler went to expensive colleges on their parents' dime, I worked construction to pay for community college classes at night. While they drove BMWs bought with family money, I rode the bus and saved every penny. But Uncle Charlie saw something in me that nobody else did. "You've got grit, Danny," he'd tell me during our monthly lunches at the corner diner. "That's worth more than any trust fund." Charlie was my dad's older brother, but they couldn't have been more different. Dad had married into money and spent his life trying to impress my stepmom's wealthy family. Charlie had stayed single, worked as a mechanic for 40 years, and lived in the same modest house he'd bought in 1975. My cousins always mocked Uncle Charlie behind his back. Brad, a stockbroker, called him the grease monkey. Tyler, who worked in his father's law firm, referred to Charlie as the family embarrassment. They tolerated him at gatherings, but made cruel jokes about his old truck, his work clothes, and his simple lifestyle. I was the only one who genuinely enjoyed Charlie's company. He had incredible stories from his decades working on cars, and he taught me everything I knew about engines and repair work. More importantly, he'd been there for me when my own father wasn't. When I graduated from community college with an associate's degree in automotive technology, Charlie was the only family member who showed up to the ceremony. He clapped louder than anyone when they called my name. "I'm proud of you, son," he said afterward, tears in his eyes. "Your dad should be here, but he's too busy trying to fit in with those snobs." "It's okay, Uncle Charlie. You being here means everything." He pulled me aside after the ceremony. "Danny, I want you to know something. When my time comes, you're the only one who really gets what life's about. Remember that." 3 years later, Charlie collapsed at work with a massive heart attack. The doctors said he had days, maybe hours left. I rushed to the hospital, but found Brad and Tyler already stationed outside his room like guards. "He's resting," Brad said when I tried to go in. "Family only." "I am family. He's my uncle too." Tyler smirked. "You're not really family, Danny. You're just Dad's stepson. Charlie only tolerated you because he felt sorry for you." "That's not true. Charlie and I are close. He want to see me." "Look," Brad said condescendingly, "we know you think Charlie's going to leave you something in his will. But here's reality. He's broke. 40 years as a mechanic doesn't exactly build wealth. There's nothing to inherit except an old house that needs to be torn down. I don't care about money. I just want to say goodbye." They exchanged glances. "He's been asking for you," Tyler admitted reluctantly. "But the doctor says visitors might stress him out. We can't risk it. He's my uncle, and we're his nephews," Brad said firmly. "Blood nephews. We make the medical decisions now." I spent the next 2 days fighting with them, trying to get past their blockade. Every time I showed up, they'd tell the nurses I wasn't immediate family. When I explained our relationship, they'd counter that I was just a stepson with no legal standing. Meanwhile, I could hear Charlie asking for me through the door. His weak voice calling, "Where's Danny? I need to see Danny." "He's not coming," I heard Brad tell him. "He's busy with his own life. You know how young people are." That lie broke my heart. Charlie thought I'd abandoned him when he needed me most. On the second night, exhausted nurses started going home and the skeleton crew took over. I waited until 3 a.m., then snuck past the sleeping security guard and made my way to Charlie's room. He looked so small in that hospital bed, hooked up to machines that beeped softly in the darkness. But his eyes opened when I touched his hand. "Danny," he whispered. "You came." "Of course I came, Uncle Charlie. I've been trying to see you for days." His hand gripped mine with surprising strength. "They told me. They said you didn't want to see me." "That's not true. I've been here every day. Brad and Tyler wouldn't let me in." Charlie's eyes flashed with anger. "Those boys always thought they were better than everyone else." He struggled to sit up. "Danny, listen carefully. I don't have much time. Don't talk like that. You're going to be fine." "No, son, I'm not." He reached under his pillow with a shaking hand and pulled out a small brass key. "Storage Unit 247. Safekeep storage on Maple Street." I took the key, confused. "What's in there?" "Everything that matters. Everything I've been saving." His voice was getting weaker. "Don't let them know about the key. Don't tell them anything until you've been there yourself." "Charlie, I don't understand." "You will. Just promise me. Don't let them steal what's yours." "What's mine?" I don't. But Charlie was fading fast. Promise me, Danny. I promise, Uncle Charlie. I promise. He smiled then, looking peaceful for the first time since I'd entered the room. Good boy. You were always the good one. Those were the last words he spoke. Charlie passed away an hour later, still holding my hand. I managed to slip out before Brad and Tyler returned. At the funeral 3 days later, they played the grieving nephews perfectly, accepting condolences and talking about their beloved uncle who had lived such a simple, humble life. It's tragic, Brad told the gathered mourners, that Charlie never had much to show for all his years of hard work. But he was rich in spirit. Tyler nodded sadly. He died with almost nothing to his name, just the old house and some worthless personal belongings. During the service, they announced that Charlie had left no will, so his modest estate would be divided between his two closest living relatives, Brad and Tyler. As a step-nephew, I had no legal claim to anything. I sat in the back, clutching the small brass key in my pocket, saying nothing. After the funeral, I drove straight to Safekeep Storage on Maple Street. The facility was older, with rows of beige metal units secured by heavy padlocks. I found Unit 247 and inserted Charlie's key. The door rolled up with a metallic clatter. I gasped. The unit was packed floor to ceiling with pristine classic cars. A 1967 Shelby Mustang GT 500, a 1970 Plymouth Cuda, a 1969 Dodge Charger R/T. At least a dozen vehicles, all in mint condition, all worth more than most people's houses. But that wasn't all. Along the walls were stacks of documentation, titles, registration papers, and professional appraisals. As I picked through them with trembling hands, the numbers made my head spin. The Shelby alone was appraised at $380,000. The Cuda at $290,000. Each car was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The total collection was valued at over $4.2 million. There was also a letter addressed to me in Charlie's careful handwriting. Danny, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and those greedy boys are probably fighting over my worthless estate. They never understood that a mechanic who spent 40 years restoring classic cars might actually know what he was doing. Every spare dollar I earned went into buying and restoring these beauties. I've been saving them for someone who would appreciate their real value. You're the only one in the family who ever cared about my work, who understood that working with your hands wasn't something to be ashamed of. These cars are yours, son. All of them. The titles are in your name. I had them transferred years ago. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't deserve them. You're worth more than all those college degrees and fancy jobs combined. Love, Uncle Charlie. I sat there in a storage unit for an hour, overwhelmed by Charlie's incredible gift. He hadn't just left me money. He'd validated everything I'd ever believed about hard work and passion meaning more than privilege. Over the next few weeks, I had the cars professionally transported and secured. The insurance alone cost more than I made in a year at my construction job. But I also started making calls to collectors and auction houses just to understand what I was dealing with. The news of Charlie's real wealth couldn't stay secret long. When I registered the cars and updated insurance policies, word started spreading through the classic car community. Charlie had been something of a legend among collectors, the mysterious mechanic who'd assembled one of the finest collections on the East Coast. 3 months after the funeral, I got a call from Brad. Danny, we need to talk. There are rumors going around about Charlie having some valuable cars. What kind of rumors? People saying he had a classic car collection worth millions. Obviously, that's ridiculous. Charlie was broke. But if he did have any old cars lying around, they'd be part of his estate. Would they? Of course. We're his legal heirs. If there are any assets we didn't know about, they belong to us. I decided it was time to end the charade. Why don't you and Tyler meet me at the courthouse tomorrow at 2 p.m.? I have something to show you. They arrived expecting some small revelation. Maybe an old Camaro worth a few $1,000s that they could split and sell. Instead, I handed them copies of all the car titles, clearly showing my name as the legal owner, with transfer dates going back 3 years. Brad's face went from confident to confused to pale white as he read through the documents. This can't be right, Tyler stammered. These cars are worth $4.2 million, I finished. according to the professional appraisals Charlie had done. They stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "That's impossible," Brad said. Charlie was a mechanic. He lived in that tiny house, drove that beat-up truck. He lived modestly because every spare dollar went into his real passion. The cars you're looking at represent 40 years of careful collecting and expert restoration. Tyler was frantically calculating numbers on his phone. "For a million? How is that possible?" Charlie knew cars. He bought damaged classics cheap, restored them himself, and held on to them until their value increased. He was smarter about investments than either of you ever realized. But he left no will, Brad protested. His estate consists of an old house and some personal belongings, just like you said at the funeral. The cars were never part of his estate because he transferred ownership to me years ago. I showed them the legal documentation proving the transfers were completely legitimate and irrevocable. "He can't have done this," Tyler said desperately. "We're his real family. We're blood relatives. And yet, you blocked his dying wish to see me. You told him I was too busy to visit. You made his last days miserable because you were afraid I might inherit something." They sat in stunned silence as the reality sank in. While they'd been guarding an empty room, the real treasure had already been given away. "We could contest this," Brad said weakly. "With what grounds? The transfers are legal and documented. Charlie was mentally competent when he made them. And I have witnesses who heard you both say the estate was worthless and that Charlie died with nothing." The classic car collection made national news when I decided to auction some of the pieces to fund a scholarship program for automotive students. The story of the humble mechanic who secretly assembled a multi-million-dollar collection captured people's imagination. Brad and Tyler's law firm dropped Tyler as a partner when the story broke, apparently having the judgment to dismiss a $4 million inheritance as worthless didn't inspire confidence in potential clients. Brad lost several major accounts who questioned his ability to assess value. I kept 3 of Charlie's favorite cars and started a small restoration business with the proceeds from the others. Every day, I work on engines and remember the uncle who saw my potential when nobody else did. The scholarship program has helped over 200 students pursue careers in automotive technology. Each recipient gets a plaque with Charlie's photo and his favorite saying, "Working with your hands isn't just a job, it's an art." Charlie's final gift wasn't just the cars. It was the lesson that real wealth isn't inherited. It's earned through passion, dedication, and the wisdom to see value where others see nothing. Brad and Tyler are still fighting over Charlie's worthless house. Last I heard, the legal fees have exceeded the property value. Meanwhile, I drive to work every day in a perfectly restored 1969 Charger, knowing that Uncle Charlie is still taking care of me, even from beyond the grave.